moving on again rather too rapidly, I want to talk a little bit about castanets. It's my belief that from a castanet playing point of view, the only sensible way of playing castanets is to play flamenco style. I've got that one on the wrong finger now. There are lots of different kinds of castanets. The only problem with playing flamenco style castanets is that I find I have to warm up a bit. And of course, when you're in the middle of a concert, that's not a great idea, because you can't. Anyway, so you'll find that you can do most of anything that's written. We don't have time, sorry. Now, there's a kind of a diplomatic thing when it comes to playing any of these accessory instruments in orchestras. The problem is, and I found this out to my great cost years ago, when I first started going in as an extra with the Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra, Jackie Gush, who was then the principal, had the strangest idea about playing castanets that I've ever come across. And it took me quite a little time to understand how to use her, well, I suppose you'd call it a castanet machine, but it just looked like something made by Heath Robinson. The thing is, when you go in as an extra with an orchestra, and this is an important part of survival technique, you have to take into account the fact that you're a guest in somebody else's house, so to speak. And you really need to make the best of what you're given, if I can put it that way. It may be that you will have your favourite way of doing things. It's only right and proper that that should be the case. But when you walk into whatever orchestra you walk into, and the principal percussion player hands you a pair of castanets and says, will you do Spanish Caprice on the castanets for us? You've got to be up to doing it on those instruments. And so I'm just going to briefly run through some of the things that you can do. Now, when I started, virtually everybody used this kind of castanet. Now, these are great. Nobody uses them these days, but then that's because nobody knows how to play them. The roll, because people have got used to the redoblo roll that you can get on Epstein and Black Swamp castanets. But the thing is, if you've got a couple of pairs of these and you rock them between your fingers, the redoblo comes out great. So always get the best you can find. I don't know who made these, actually. I don't even know where I found them now. Some years ago, we were in Granada with John Elliott Gardner doing Carmen. And I got friendly with a family called the Azevedos. And they're castanet makers. And they have a beautiful shop in Granada. And they've been wonderful. They regularly send me things to try out, including, would you believe, a castanet machine. But of course, castanet machines are not used in Spain the way that they're used here. I mean, that's a Percussion Plus castanet machine. A lot of people, again, have a problem with castanet machines because they think the roll has to be played. So it's really only as good as your single stroke roll. But actually, if you use what they call a carretilla in Spain, this finger movement that I was messing about with earlier, you'll find that you get a much more usable sound out of the instrument. Rolls are always the sort of the bête noire of the percussion player playing castanets. There was one time when I breezed into an orchestra and found that type of castanet. Now, these were very popular in the Victorian era, but you rarely see them now. And the thing is, of course, you have to get the best out of them that you can. And really, that's about the best you're going to get out. But then I thought, well, supposing I hold them like this. You can actually fool around with, I mean, it's within the sort of the given boundaries of the job. So that you can actually do some more creative stuff with the instruments. Years ago, I was a student of a guy called Bobby Christian, who was for many years the percussion player for a band leader called Percy Faith. And later on in Percy Faith's career, he used to come to the UK, and thanks to Bob, I used to get the call sometimes. Now, Percy threw a real curved ball into the game one time, in that he said, oh, and bring your velvet castanets. Velvet castanets? In heaven's name is that? And what it was a thing Bob had done in the days when they used to mic everything very close in the studios. And what it is it's a little block castanet with felt lining, so that you get a very sort of veiled sound. Composers love these things. They like to be difficult as well when they can. I've been mucking about with this style of playing for a while. I have a very dear friend, Bernard Bellinger, who's the timpani player in Opera Marseille, and he showed me the origins of this. And it's just pinching a pair of castanets so that they're slightly open, but I found using a little bit of bar-on technique, you get quite an interesting little noise there. Again, that sort of role in miniature would be very usable in something like Walton's Belshazzar's Feast, where the tenor's going on about the dreadful things that they got up to in Sodom and Gomorrah or somewhere. But anyway, that's a technique which is, again, eminently usable. And it's just basically the same karatia that you've heard already. Now, I'm moving at a rate of knots. Forgive me if I'm moving too fast for you. What I decided to try... Oh, one thing I forgot. Sorry, I'm trying to work too fast here, but every triangle produces two very distinct pitches. Now, Dave Hassel and I, earlier today, were comparing notes about working with the late Stanley Black. Stan could drive percussion players insane. I remember turning up once at the BBC for him, and he sidled over to me and he said, "I'm awfully sorry, I forgot to tell you that you need a go-go bells for the session this morning." And I said, "Well, I haven't got any Latin stuff with me at all." And he said, "No, but I know you'll think of something." And I suddenly realized that what you can do is to actually use that way, just draping it against a snare drum. Another guy, American jingle writer called Dave Christensen, once asked for a glissando. Aren't composers wonderful? They're almost as much fun as conductors.